David, our technical person, along with his mom, Kathy, big A Place to Call Home fan.
Hi, Kathy. Yes. We met when I was in Brisbane at Marta and Ben's. And I said, I know you. And they were going, oh, no. I said, I do.
Say hello, Jane and Donna.
Hi, Jane. How you going? Hi. And hi, Donna.
Hi.
Here's Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Hi. How are you?
Well, okay, I think Amy must not be there. So welcome, everybody. Robert and Noni. Meet Jane Sullivan, from world traveler from Atlanta, Georgia. Donna Devine, Dr. Donna Robinson Devine from New York City and Connecticut, and the Bowles from. Okay, Kathy, I just read your Christmas letter, and I'm sorry I don't remember. Tell us where in Australia you are.
Which is near Rockhampton in Queensland. Central Queensland.
Near Rockhampton.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Robert, it's a pleasure for us to meet you. Noni is an old friend. We speak with her regularly. I want to start. I'm sorry?
She's an old friend of mine as well.
Well, actually, Robert, that was going to be one of my questions. It seems to me that you guys, having been such a big part of Australia film and television, that your paths have crossed before. Tell us when you met Noni the first time.
First time was on a series called Patrol Boat, which was all about the Australian Navy. They have little patrol boats that go around and patrol the coastline. And these were tiny little boats that they now have upgraded to much bigger, scarier looking things. But this was a very kind of Spartan craft, and we did a lot of filming on it. Noni was one of the guests on an episode, and she was a very, very beautiful girl. And I was quite a beautiful man. We were young, you see, and we were very different. But she's still beautiful, and I'm
can't dig yourself out of that one.
but Noni and I have crossed paths many times saying hi.
Yeah.
We haven't worked except on that one episode of a series long ago in 1978.
I played Andrew McFarlane, the captain's girlfriend, and Andrew, of course, was the doctor who Jane's hospital. So yeah. I've worked with him quite a few times, but not with Robert. No, I don't think we even had a scene together as such. We might have been in a scene together, but we've never worked opposite each other. Really.
I do remember doing a scene with you.
Do you?
Yes, on a jetty. and I thought, what a beautiful story.
Thank you.
Well, you were right, and you both went on to have many jobs since. Robert, tell us a little bit about the process of you getting the part of Douglas. How did it all come about?
The producers suggested it to me and said, and I said that'd be great to work with Noni. I'd love to do that, and they had a storyline that, of course, changed in the course of events, but that often happens when you have a large cast in a continuing serial. And so I was regretful that we didn't have a little longer kind of lead up to our eventual marriage, because I can remember turning pages of a script and going, will you marry me? Oh, that's a bit sudden. But but it kind of all works out, because I think you know, as an actor, you want more steps, and the audience are already ahead of you, probably. So we went, and it was very unfortunate to end up dying, but that's what happened, and it was over a very interesting area of public debate, which is euthanasia or self-euthanasia, and I was glad to be a part of that argument in a drama. I think it was significant.
We did hope to go to Egypt or something, didn't we, on our honeymoon?
Why didn't we go and see the pyramids or all these things we talk about? You know, we often just walk out the door with a suitcase and come back again.
Yeah, I think I had a Moroccan teapot. That was about the extent of it.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about the subject of euthanasia. Is it something that either of you had thought seriously about before, had strong opinions about, or was it something that you gradually investigated and came to some conclusion, or maybe not?
I gave my wife a rubber mallet for her last birthday so that she could not with it anymore.
How many times?
Close to hitting me with it since. But anyway, I do personally. I do feel really. This is close to my heart because my mother at the moment is in a nursing home, being well looked after, but she's basically unable to recognise me or any other member of the family or communicate. And it's awful to see somebody die like that. And of course, she is dying in a natural way. That is the way that her body has given up. It's mentally rather than any other part of her body. But it is a stage where if that was an animal, you'd say the best thing would be to put them out of their misery because it's not a life, And every time I visit her, I just think how she must know somewhere inside her how kind of hopeless and endless this appears to be, just staring at a wall from a bed, It's awful. So there needs to be some kind of proper discussion where we understand really what. I don't know. The question is kind of very difficult to answer, I know, but I do feel if I was in the situation that Douglas was in, I'd definitely take the same steps he did to try and finish it early, rather than when it's a complete blithering mess.
Yeah, and quite by chance, the Victorian government introduced euthanasia laws as this was going to air, so it was very topical here. I mean, I had thought a little bit about it. I always thought if you're going to put an animal down because you don't want it to suffer, why is a human being any different? We're all creatures. Yeah. But obviously it's an intensely personal thing. But the thing that I found hard was, or knew, was Elizabeth's absolute moral certainty that this was not to happen. That was very far from my own beliefs. And her faith, is something that I think really was challenged by it. But, when push came to shove, literally, she loved Douglas more than she loved the Lord, I guess. It was something that she could see that this proud man, who was very much a proud man, could not continue in this helpless state. And I think that sheer human compassion was what led her forward into that act.
Well, we know that Elizabeth, when at the beginning when Anna wants to convert, and there are certainly references to her religion and her faith before, but that one scene where we actually do see you in prayer was really really something, because until that time, I think that we thought that Elizabeth's steadfastness about keeping in the religion and has really evolved, came to accept things that she never would have before. And when we see that scene, I know it sure brought tears to my eyes, because I think I understood a part of Elizabeth that I never did before, that her faith really does come from her heart. It's not that she's bigoted or she hates people who are different. Her faith has taught her a certain way for a long time, and now she's trying to broaden those opinions without losing her connection to God.
Yeah, I think for me, the whole thing about, Elizabeth has been part of organised religion, and as opposed to a personal faith. And I think, she's woken up over the 5 seasons to understand that you have to, how can I put this, that the things that you feel or you've been taught are right can still be questioned, and that really, if you will end up alone if you adhere to these things with absolute total devotion. And I think her desire, her bottom line is that the message is love. the message of all religions, I believe, is love. And often organised religion, the message ends up being hatred or intolerance or exclusion. And she's woken up, or fear. And I think she's woken up to that human interaction, is one thing, but being told that someone is not one of God's chosen people is with you alone, ultimately, in her situation, certainly.
And I think, in that last scene where she actually unscrews the bottle that I take the barbiturate because I can't manage it, she's allowing Douglas to carry out his own wish of generosity towards her, and also he doesn't want her to see him ultimately in the worst situation that this particular illness will bring on, for sure. And she wants to allow him to give her that generosity and to carry out his wish, even against her own beliefs, maybe. And therefore it makes her a very generous person. So I think that's why he says, "Oh, I love you so much," that you will actually give up your own, core belief to do this for me, so I can do this for you, as it were, and I think that's just a lovely thing.
Yeah, that was a lovely part of, I think, Robert's playing, certainly the character, that it wasn't just because he was in too much pain. He wanted to spare her. And Bevan really brought that forward, that it was very much, he talked to Jack and to Henry about it. He didn't want to put me through it, Elizabeth through it. And I thought that was a nice theme to be part of it, not just his pain and suffering.
As I said, I've been saying all along that those scenes were among the most romantic that I've seen in a long time. How, I know it's difficult to say, everybody wants to know what's the process? How do you get yourself into it? How does it all happen? So I'm asking. So what did you say, Noni?
I've sent me a rubber mallet.
Can you tell us a little bit in, simple, non-technical terms, a little bit about the process? You get this script and you see how this story evolves, and you have to show the world how you fall in love, and you did it spectacularly. How do you translate the word on the page to what we see? What did you rehearse a lot? What went on? Share a little with us.
Look, it's intuitive. Only is very easy to fall in love with. That's easy. The part of it which is interpretive, that you might have to think about a little bit is the era, the character, what the social situation is, all those kinds of things which have a bearing, of course. But I think when we play period, as it were, playing in the 50s, we really just put ourselves back in the same situation, in the real life situation. We don't play like old fogies. We're playing ourselves, I think, for all my training and all my experience, I still go about it in a kind of intuitive, organic way. And for me, it's the way that it keeps it open and fluid, and you can still find spontaneity within the performance without locking it in necessarily to absolutely, hard and fast parameters. So I'm still kind of learning, which is what's so great about being an actor. You've never really finished learning, and that's why it's so fascinating. It's like being a painter. You'll never finish being a better painter, and it's a glorious life. It has been for me anyway. I've enjoyed it thoroughly, but yeah, every script is different, and every time you play a character, you're always going to. Colin Firth was saying this the other day. Colin Firth, who's King's Speech and all those wonderful movies he's made, Love Actually and all that. Bridget Jones' Diary and so forth. But I think he said exactly the same thing. I'm always lost. I'm at sea when I start a new thing, and I feel like I'm going to fail, and this is where I'll be found out, you know. And everybody will say that guy can't act for nuts. And he said, but that's a good thing, because, you know, it is the uncertainty of actually being able to clearly see what you're going to do, because that doesn't happen until you're right on set and in front of the other person, and it's all happening, you know. And then you go, wow, yeah, this is.
And the strange thing about this show for me is that I don't particularly like rehearsing before the shoot.
Me too.
Because, you know, it's not Douglas and it's not Elizabeth. There's Noni sitting there, the old hippie, and there's, you know, gorgeous Robert sitting there. And it's, you know, you can't, in some little director's office under a fluorescent light, you know, you can't make the equivalent of what you're going to do on set. So normally those rehearsals are just us chatting through and, you know, having a quiet read of it and making some suggestions and imagining what we might do. And in this particular scene, luckily our director, Jeremy Sims, who's an actor as well, the scene where Douglas dies was originally timed for about 2.5 minutes. And when we came to do the scene, we did it once and it went for about 7 minutes. And they said, look, you're going to have to cut it down. And I said, well, I can't cut it down. We can't cut it down too much, because, you know, you can't go, oh, please give it to me, here you go, put the record on, see you later. You know, you can't cut 5 minutes out of that, because it just wouldn't be believable. So we did get it down to 5 minutes. And when Jeremy cut the show together, and the directors only get like a week to cut an episode, he cut the show together and he gave it to them and he said, I can't cut any more out of this. If you can, go ahead. And they didn't. So, you know, someone reading it timed it at 2 minutes, but there's no way it could have been done in 2 minutes. You know, so again, it's very instinctive, and you know, we talked a little bit about it, but we didn't plan, did we?
No.
And until I got there and saw, you know, Robert, who lost weight, and the makeup, and, you know, amazing performance, you don't know what you're going to do until you see that there happening in the bed, in the set, in the character. You really don't know. You know, I don't know who Elizabeth is until I see her she's all done. I look at this screen and I go, who's that?
Plus, you want it to be an experience, you know, like you are experiencing it. So you're in the moment. But it can go wrong. I had a series I did in England way back in the 70s called John Halifax Gentleman, and I had a daughter who was, my firstborn child was 12 when she died, and she was a blind girl, and I was very attached to her. This is the character, was very attached to her. And when I'm much older, because I had to age in this thing from 25 to, 19 to 54, that's right, when I finally died. And I had to go and visit his grave when I was in my 40s, and I break down in tears and so forth. So I had gone to a graveyard and just seen a child's grave, and it was moving enough just to see a little grave, and I thought, oh, this is fine, you know. So I said to the director when we got to the actual location in southern England, I said, I don't want to see the grave. I know it's going to be shot in the graveyard. Can I just walk up to the grave and you've got it all set up and I just encounter the grave? That's it. And he said, yeah, sure, we can organise that. So anyway, I got all this. They got the cameras ready and they said, okay, Rob, so come down the gravel path. And there I come to this graveyard, which is obviously the one they want me to look at. This gravestone in the grave, and the gravestone. I realised when I was watching it set it up, because I saw a props man carrying the gravestone under his arm, which was a piece of polystyrene painted. I thought, oh, it's not actually going to be a real gravestone. And then when I got there, what they'd done is the gravestone was a little bit too low, so they taped it to a spade, which they then dug in the ground. So sitting handle with a spade with this. To get the sound right, the sound man had actually lying prone on the grave below the gravestone, just there between his legs. But it was just completely ridiculous, you know. So
you'll be right, mate.
Yeah, you'll be right.
The miracle of television.
Yeah.
The miracle of film. Donna, let's hear from you.
So to get back to the death scene and others that you've played, what struck me when I had the opportunity to see some of the episodes filmed at the studio of season 5 was how often they had to repeat a 5-minute scene. There must have been 5 or 6 takes. So when you're doing something like the scene where Douglas dies, how do you get yourself in the same mood if you have to repeat it? It seems to me that kind of approach in TV is very different from what you would be doing on the stage in a theatrical performance.
Except when the thing about theatre is you try also to make every performance spontaneous, as it were spontaneous. Except, of course, you have to keep to the same moves. You can throw them around a bit, but it's a bit naughty on the other actors. I remember doing a play with Jackie Weaver just before she went over to America to do her, go up to the Golden Globes and the Oscar, and everything happened from there. She said one night to me, what are you going to do this evening? Because I kept changing things around just to keep them alive, But so we try and make things alive even in the theatre, but we have a sense of memory always for what we've done. And that stands us in very good stead for filming. You must remember what you did in your continuity and so forth, almost like a second nature, because as you were saying, there are 5 or 10 takes of the same scene from different angles. And you have to remember exactly what you did and repeat it without that interfering with the spontaneity that you want to get in each take.
Yeah,
so
and difficult when you're doing a scene in bed because, we had a lot of embracing to do and some really close work. And of course, pillows don't always move the same way.
No.
And blankets don't end up the same way.
Yeah.
So something good might have not been usable because Robert's face was half hidden by a pillow or something, so... But the thing that really is important is that you don't play the end of the scene at the beginning.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see that in performances that you go, why are you being, at some point you've got to tell the story within the scene. And you can't sort of go, oh, we're going to do take 4 of you dying, knowing that this is when you're going to die at the beginning. So that's the challenge, that you come into it again, having gone through all the grief and all the pain, that you come into it not knowing that that's going to happen in theory, even though you do. And even though on one level you're going, make sure the pillow's not up near his face, make sure the blanket goes to the right spot, make sure you don't mask him when you keep, all those technical things that are in the back of your head. And that's the great challenge. That's what I love, that while you're doing all that technical stuff, you're also trying to be here and now and see what else is fresh and what else you can experiment with while making sure you don't mask him or these things that are going on. It's thrilling.
Did you guys have any idea when they said that's a wrap, how good a job you had done on this sequence? How spectacular it was, how there were thousands and thousands of people all over the world with tears running down their faces. It was just so brilliant. Were you aware of it before we started to tell you?
I always feel you could do better. There's never, you never kind of walk away going, nailed it, But I cried watching it.
We did one take, which was actually the first take we did, which was in long shot, and it was actually on a crane above the bed. And they played the whole scene just from that one shot. They decided to let it run while we were playing it. And they were all in absolutely floods of tears around the monitor. and said, why don't we just leave it like that? We just don't need to do any cutaways at all. But they'd set aside 4 hours for the scene to get it right, to make sure they got it from the angles that they needed. So they eventually used the cut-ins, but the director just said, well, it just plays from that distance. You know, you can just really get into it. It just plays. And yeah, I think that was a good, we felt that was a very good take, and I think that's what we based the rest of it on, really, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to follow that blueprint then, if that's the master shot.
Yeah, that was the master
you know,
shot.
You can't sort of go, oh, I found something new in my close-up because it won't match, you know, so you have to then replicate that. So sometimes the director will say, do you want to do the tight stuff first, or do you want to do the big wide shot, you know, if you're lucky for the director. Yeah, I mean, when I watched it, I howled. I absolutely howled watching it because, you know, as I said, I don't look at myself on the screen and go, oh, there's me. I go, who's that woman? You know, and so I can follow, you know, I just watch the story unfold. But at the time, I remember thinking things like, I really, you know, I have to be very careful that we have a time issue here. And I you know, this all through the playing of it, that I couldn't, in ways that I might have wanted to as an actor, I couldn't extend moments that I might have liked to, because we had to keep it as tight as possible, you know. So there's all that technical stuff going on, but you know, and you just never know, do you? You never know whether it's going to work or not. You just have to trust the director that they've got what they wanted, and that they know that you can follow direction if they give you some more suggestions. That's what you want from a director. But you know, if you're happy, I'm happy is the bottom line, because we don't know. Some people like to watch it back, but I don't.
No, me neither. I hate watching myself. But I think there's a big difference in what you're allowed in terms of time with a movie and what you can do on television quite often. So that's. But you know, we've got fabulous lighting cameraman and really good operator, and it's all shot on Panavision lenses, and that's why it looks so good. I think from that point of view, we've got a very high-end quality on the show, so it's very close to a film. But having said that, there's still a stricture of time to make an hour's television in the period that we've got, which is 8 days, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah.
Well, Robert, at least they didn't ask you to ride a horse.
No, they asked me to ride a horse. No, they did ask me to ride a horse, but they gave me a horse which was huge, and then they wouldn't let me ride it. They got paranoid about, I don't know, insurance or whatever. I mean, I've had my own horses and all that sort of thing, and it's a bit like, you know, giving you a Maserati to drive, and then they won't let you do more than let off the handbrake.
Yeah, they won't let you even. You're only allowed to go trotting.
Well, I had to sit on one of those kind of bouncing things. You've got 2 little ears, and it's supposed to be like a rabbit, and you can sit on it and bounce around use that to bounce around on in front of the television, in front of the camera. And you're riding a horse, you know. Come on.
It's a dignified.
Indeed.
On the back of a ute, one of those things, and bounce around on your bum, looking like you're a horse.
Well, riding horses is much more popular in Australia than it is in Brooklyn. So we see there's so many people on horsebacks on a place to call home. Jane, I know you're chomping at the bit to ask a question. Speaking of horses, chomping at the bit.
Hey, I have several. I'm not sure which one flows best in the conversation, but let me go ahead and ask. One of the bonuses of the arts is being able to address issues like homelessness or euthanasia. Have you had other roles where you felt the responsibility and also the privilege of highlighting an issue, and did you get to see some results?
Well, I did a play called Whose Life Is It Anyway back in the 80s. It's about a quadriplegic who is a young man and doesn't want to be kept in hospital anymore, you know, and under machines to keep him going. He wants to be allowed to go home to die. And the hospital put it in Boca, a section of the Mental Health Act to keep him in the hospital against his wishes. and he convenes a court inside his hospital room, and eventually the judge says, yeah, he can be allowed to go home and die. It was a very poignant piece because at the time people in wheelchairs were really thought of as being slightly mentally retarded as well as being disabled. And there were no facilities given to wheelchairs or anything around the country. So it was a big kind of game changer for those who saw it about the rights of people who are disabled, especially paralyzed people. And one of the things that, so it was a very gratifying play to do, particularly to people who were disabled who came to see it. And one of my best moments was it was a sad moment, but there were quite a few people who were in chairs who came to see the show, as I said, and one girl was in the audience still, and she was a quadriplegic, and she was there. And she wanted to see me after the show, and it was in Melbourne when the show was in Melbourne. And I went and saw her, and she said, she was in tears and said, that's right. She'd had a very bad car accident. She had a whole facial reconstruction. She was in the chair, and she said, he's right. The character's right. You should, get out of it and die. This is a terrible life. And I said, but, I thought, because I'd been waiting for this thing, and I was feeling it'd be awful for somebody who's a quadriplegic to actually see the show and decide to kill themselves. And I said, look, what's your situation? I mean, don't forget, this is a very kind of dramatic scene that they've written here, and he's stuck in a hospital bed. Here you are at the theatre watching a play. So life is better than that, for you. But I said, where do you live? And she said, well, I live in a home with other disabled people. And I said, what do you feel like doing? She said, well, I'd like to have lived at home with my parents. And I said, do they know that? And she said, well, not really. They thought I'd be happier where I was with other similarly disabled people. And I said, well, I think you should talk to your mum and see if you can't get back home. Anyway, 2 days later, I was walking down one of the main streets in Melbourne, and this woman with a big fur coat on came and just threw herself on me and hugged me like crazy. And I said, sorry. She said, you're Robert Colby. You played this fabulous role in the theatre. And she said, my daughter came to see you, and it's changed our lives. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, this is the quad that you saw 3 days ago, and she's coming back home.
Oh.
So I thought,
Susan, I'm going to have to leave because I have company.
Okay.
Here, but it's been a privilege.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Donna. Bye.
Sorry.
Robert, can we talk a little bit about? Yeah, I'm well aware of the fact that both of you, are two of the most prominent actors in Australian entertainment. I'm a Hollywood brat, and now that I've gotten to know all of you, I see the difference. Noni, you're always saying you think you're in a bubble. You don't know, you do your work, you go to work every day, you do it, you go home, you don't know what's going on. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to work as an actor in Australia, in contrast to what you know about Hollywood? I don't see the ego. I don't see the. I'm sure it's there. There's no question, but I see there being a more cohesive community of entertainers in Australia, and I'm thinking, is that because they are in Australia? They're not part of the Hollywood machine. Can you share a little bit with us about what it's like to be part of that community and how you see it in relation to what goes on in Hollywood?
It's much simpler here, isn't it? There's not the layers. We all have an agent. Some of us have managers, but we don't have both. And the agent really is just an answering machine for people like us. We still have to test for things, even for Australian directors. And because work is sporadic, you're always grateful for a role. And if it, some people can't afford to be picky and choosy, but you know, I've always been picky and choosy whether I could afford to be or not. Just because I'm not that good an actor that I can tell lies, you know, or pretend I'm enjoying myself when I'm not. But it is a lot simpler, you know. An agent doesn't craft a career for you here. They might.
Sometimes you wish they would.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But you know, there's no such thing as a pilot season. The publicists are, you know, some people have publicists, most of us don't. And particularly as you get older, you know, I'm lucky to catch a cold. Really, in terms of publicity, it's all about the youngies, and that's fine. Swines. But certainly it's a lot less complicated. And so, you know, your ego isn't allowed to kind of take over because there's nothing to be egotistical about.
No, that's right. That's probably what keeps us pretty level. Anyway, speaking of young people, we should bring on Colby.
Yeah, we have a surprise guest for you.
Oh, well, do tell.
Now, this is a little bit of a spoiler for those in England, but we know that you've been avidly devouring the spoilers. But this is a very special guest. This is Robert's son, and this is Conrad Colby.
Howdy.
Hey, Conrad, how are you?
Good.
Who appears after Douglas's death. And thank God for Elizabeth that he does, because he is the son that was estranged from his father, that his father never mentioned to Elizabeth, and which, you know, gives her some cause for reflection. But we won't say what your story arc is for those who don't want to know, but we just thought we'd let you say hello because, you know, it's so lovely that he came to my house to visit.
Hi, everyone.
Well, welcome to a place to call home, family. I have to tell you, I'm going to say two words. Tell me if they mean anything to you. Santa Monica.
Of course. I've been to Santa Monica myself many times, yeah.
I am from Santa Monica, and when I heard you usher those words, I was so excited.
Yeah, I love Santa Monica. I think it's a beautiful place. It's probably where I would live in LA if I was living there.
Well, I have a rent-controlled apartment in Santa Monica. You might want to sublet sometime.
Oh, there you go.
Excellent.
Definitely keep that in mind.
So, welcome. I have seen all of season 5. I think everybody here has. And you're a wonderful, wonderful addition. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to come and play an important role in a show that had been well established?
Yeah, it's always it's always a challenge to join a well established show and sort of see where you fit. But I guess the writers have done a really good job at the way they've introduced my character, and it's kind of a wonderful entry, which I haven't had on other shows, where you sort of get that sort of a real proper introduction. And I think it's always you always worry about how you're going to be received and where your character is going to fit within a show. And I think that just becomes apparent to you over time, rather than it being an immediate thing that you notice just from the writing. It's kind of, you need to get there and flesh out the character on the spot as you're doing it, and then see, how people react to it. And it seems like the reaction's been good, and people have liked the way the character's been introduced, and who we sort of decided to make strong ties with. And obviously working with Noni has been wonderful. We've had some great scenes together to start it off, and we find it very easy to work together and work the same sort of way, I think. So, and
his character is such a great breath of fresh air into the series, because it's symbolic of the change in Australia from the Anglo domination to getting American culture coming in through the late 50s and through television in 56. And so in comes this Troy Donahue, this beautiful, golden, sunshiny man. And the girls just go, and for Elizabeth,
there isn't too many men there that are taken, or
but it's you're just a golden man, in this kind of quite insular country existence, and it's just beautiful. And for me as an actor, having played those scenes with Robert, which were so heart wrenching, to actually have the real son of the real man just made it so much easier, you know, for me to kind of look into those eyes, which is so similar, and to say, you know, you're just like your father, as Elizabeth does, and to have that truth was wonderful. It was such a bonus.
Yeah, what's it like? I'd love to ask the question back, actually. What's it like for the audience to have someone that they know is the real son of somebody playing their son? Yeah. I'm always actually quite intrigued about that.
Well, I will speak for myself. You know, as I told your father before, I am the wife and the mother of actors. And so I have a little bit more of a insight on, first of all, you did not get the role. I don't care how you tell me it came about. You didn't get the role because you were his son. If you cannot deliver the work, you know, all this talk about nepotism. Well, nepotism in Hollywood happens with executives. It does not happen with actors. If you cannot deliver the work, you don't get the role. Pure and simple. So I think people are... Sorry?
Yeah, you have to suit the part too, obviously.
I think people, as they are getting to see it, are taken with the idea that this great actor has a son who is also a terrific actor, who is able to deliver the goods in this very special role. And I don't think that you're going to hear anybody say, oh, he got the job because his father got it for him. I don't think that's occurred to anybody. You, from your first scene, and I don't even know if I knew at the beginning that you were his son. I might not have even known it. You are perfectly cast. You deliver the work. I think you and Ari, who I just love, are fabulous together, and I could feel her. You know, we didn't see her for a lot of the season, and when we started to see her again, I could really see how the quality of her work has been lifted. And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with working with a good actor who lifts you up. So I think that I don't know what's in store for season 6, but I think that you have slid beautifully into the ensemble, and that everybody is very, very excited to see where the story goes.
Yeah,
so
I think it's lovely for Olivia, because she's had, you know, the most thankless role of all, I suspect, you know, in that her life has just gone from one disaster to another. And for her to have this permission to be independent from the family, you know, she can't be entirely independent because she's a woman of the 50s, but she has through this gorgeous man, she's able to choose another road, and he allows, he's there to facilitate that, and I think that's a really lovely thing that the fans appreciate very much for the character.
Conrad, remember, we're an international group, so we don't get to see a lot of Australian television and movies, and Noni and the group have all become familiar to us, so we're constantly watching television and movies that they've done. I even know songs from Play School and all kinds of things. I know you were on All Saints. I think, were you on All Saints with Jenny?
Yeah, I was with Jenny Baird. Yeah. Yep.
How was that?
Oh, Jenny is a treasure. Like, I love Jenny Baird. She's such a great person, and we had a lot of fun on. I think All Saints was one of the. It's like a kid's playground as an actor. Everyone was the silliest you could possibly be on that show. I think we all had a really good time, and it all was probably the result of Georgie Parker. She was kind of the leader of having a good time on set, and it just felt down from there since she was the head of the show. So we had such a good time, and I think because you're always on sets that are a hospital, and hospitals are very structured places, and they send you a bit potty if you're in a real one, you know, and just because we were constantly on a set that had that was a pretend hospital, it made us even more potty. So we had a lot of fun on set, but we got the work done at the same time. But it was a lot of goofing around, which made it a really fun job.
I'm going to make this a 3-shot. I'm going to bring Robert back next to me.
Oh, please do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Noni,
You know-
Noni,
you know-
Noni, you're getting better at this technical stuff. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. So, Noni sandwiched between two gorgeous men. A gorgeous woman between two gorgeous men. Beautiful, beautiful. Um, Robert, talk a little bit about what it's like to see your son go into your business, and then get a chance. Is this your first chance to work together, or have you done it before?
Y'all were in a play together. What was that like?
We were in a play called Other Desert Cities, which is an American play. But although we're on stage a lot, the two characters don't actually have any dialogue.
Right.
It's happened to us 3 times now. We've been in the same show but never addressed each other as characters. So we're like passing in the night. So we kind of enjoy, having a coffee with each other in between takes, but we don't actually get to act together. So that's something we've been talking about that we need to address probably personally, just to actually put on a play and do it together.
You don't always have to kill him off just so you can appear, though.
Yeah.
I'll take that emotion.
He's got a couple of mouths.
Robert, when your kids expressed interest in going into the entertainment business, were you happy that they wanted to go into the family business, or did you try to discourage them and tell them to get a real job?
No, because I've enjoyed it so
Wish
much.
it did.
Yeah. That's probably the wrong way to go. I've encouraged my kids to be creative, I suppose, or tried to, by osmosis, introduce that side of life. And of course, they'd be much better off if they'd been, qualified in something professional that they could just earn a living at, straightforward.
But Conrad has another sideline. He's also a wonderful photographer.
Yeah, I'm a professional photographer as well, so I shoot portraits and interiors, and yeah.
Oh, excellent. Well, maybe you'll share some of your photography with us in the future. Would love.
I do already. You can find my work on Instagram if you want. It's on under Conrad Colby with underscores. You can spell my name, and you'll find it.
Yeah, he took many shots on set.
I shot Human recently at Kirribilli House, at the government house, for an event, and Deb Furness. So that was kind of cool because I've worked with Hugh before on a film together. We did The Wolverine together. So that was kind of funny because I was turning the camera back on him when we've worked together in a scene before. So, yeah.
Actor by day, bar mitzvahs by night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Kathy, are you there? You had a question?
I was wondering, Noni, how you felt as a person having to be the one to not let them go ahead and let Sir Richard be convicted. How you felt yourself at when there were so many reasons that he should have been punished, and how you felt with Elizabeth's solution.
I agree with Elizabeth's answer in that instance. You're a little bit faint, so I'll just repeat the question in case some people watching didn't hear it. How do you feel as Elizabeth not wanting to join everyone in convicting Sir Richard of a murder? And again, I'm conscious of spoilers, really, but no, I absolutely think that Elizabeth's moral code is still very strong, and that it was important that justice be done, not be seen to be done in that instance. And she says, I betrayed my moral code for love, and I couldn't. So I think that was partly right. And she had her own Sir Richard anyway, which she offered, sort of rubber mallet style.
Noni, we've talked before, and Bevan's talked about it, you've talked about it, that A Place to Call Home is the story about the relationship between Sarah and Elizabeth. Especially in the entertainment business, female friendships are hard to maintain in general. And when you have such different points of view about certain things, it's particularly difficult. Um, Sarah and Elizabeth are getting closer and closer, um, despite the fact that there are constant challenges. Elizabeth does not want to see George become Jewish. She has a grandchild who's now going to be raised in a Jewish family. Um, what is it about this relationship that sustains it?
I think respect. I think that Elizabeth has always been well aware of George's shortcomings. She's often accused George of being staid and too conservative and immutable, which for a while there was a bit pot calling the kettle black. But I think Elizabeth has allowed her attitudes to evolve, perhaps more so than George has, although he's trying in season 5, I think, to get his head above the parapet and actually see what's really going on. And I think Sarah's view of George has also evolved. She sees him much more realistically now. And, having had their child, for Elizabeth, that child is very, very precious. And so it would be in no one's interest for her to stand in the way of a relationship between the grandmother and her grandchild. But I think, let's not forget that right up until probably the 80s in some areas, that would have been seen as a mixed marriage, and it would never work in Ireland, and a Catholic marrying a Protestant was enough to break up a family until quite recently. And so I think the basis of it now, though, is Elizabeth has seen Sarah in all kinds of situations and vice versa. I think they have a great respect for each other's strength and for their ability to relate to other people. These are quite unusual female characters for the time, particularly. And, for Sarah to be a professional woman who keeps working after she's had a child, it takes courage. And I think they admire each other's courage. And as the series evolves, that will, I think, turn to love, to a deep, deep love.
Robert, there's no such thing, we know there's no such thing as a regular job in the entertainment business. In Hollywood, if you get a show for 13 weeks, that's a pretty good deal. So I don't think you're coming back from the dead to a place to call home as much as we would like to see you. Do you have something coming up, or what's going on?
No, I don't. Look, I'm an old guy, so I'm sort of thinking, well, do something rather special now. It's you hit a bit of a wall at 70 and go, I see the next big one's going to be 80. You better do something in between. So I don't know really what, but I do like painting a lot, and I was selling my paintings until about 8 years ago for a good price. And I just suddenly stopped painting. I went to the south of France and saw some work which really inspired me, and I realized I wanted to change my style, but I really need to get on with that. So that's something I really want to pursue before I get too feeble to actually wield a brush. But I just look for a challenge, and that'll be a challenge for me. So if somebody came up with a really good role that was a challenge, fabulous. But otherwise, yeah, we're available. But we, just don't want to do the stuff we've done before. I think that's probably both of us feel that way, and just want. I mean, you were saying we're legends. This is the legend. This is the legend. I was just taking a little walk when Conrad came on this thing, and there's all these. Well, they're like Oscars in Australia that Dear Noni Hazlehurst won, and they're on the shelf, actually in the back room, sort of hidden. She doesn't display them much, but there's just not one. There's 4 of those and 3 of those and 6 of those, and well deserved too. I think I've got an invitation card to something like this.
Well, but it's, as I always say, it's 50% luck in this business.
Sure.
to be in some films that I've had good roles to play and I've garnered attention, you know, and Robert's done some incredible things. It's like Jackie Weaver, you know.
But they've been in rubbish.
No, but they haven't been seen by the right people in the right time. It's like Jackie Weaver. Jackie Weaver was lucky enough to be in an Australian film that got seen by people who liked her performance. And, you know, I've been in a lot of stuff that nobody's seen. Same with Robert. You know, nobody in a position to give us an international career has seen that stuff. So that's why it's meant so much to us that you guys overseas, and as I keep saying, you know, it's such a mind boggle that people overseas are seeing our work. That's really rare.
Well, we are so excited about A Place to Call Home that I have a big mouth. I can't know what I know and not tell everybody about it. And it's not that I'm an expert, but I have been in and around the business my whole professional life. And I was in Hollywood at the height where Dynasty and Falcon Crest and all of these shows were big hits. And I know the difference between quality television and television that's not quality. And I think that A Place to Call Home is the benchmark, and that everybody who's looking for new drama and how do we do it and how do we cast it with spectacular actors should be looking at A Place to Call Home. And we're hoping that the group and our activities will help bring that attention to the series, because frankly, I'm tired of looking at the same reboots of old shows and seeing the same actors playing roles that weren't good to begin with. And I would love to see, Noni, we've made it perfectly clear to you that we really, really are looking for every way possible to make sure that people here in a position to offer work and good roles and opportunities get to see you. And by doing these chats, it's one of the vehicles that we've come up with. Noni always says that the chats are a gift from A Place to Call Home to the international group, and we cherish them. And we post them after we do them. They will go on the page, and thousands of people will have a chance to see them. We write letters, and we call producers, and we have petitions, and we pitch stories. And I want you guys, the two of you are new to our family, and we recognize the high quality work. You, Conrad, you're going places. You're going places.
Because you talked to Bevan. Oh.
Conrad, I know more about you than you do.
I know, it's so frustrating.
That kind of kills me. Is it something to do with an island?
No spoilers.
I don't know, but how I am sworn I cannot tell anybody anything that I know. But just like I get teased, you can get teased. Let me ask you this. Let's say that A Place to Call Home is seen by every producer in Hollywood, and the phone starts ringing, and you guys get all kinds of opportunities. Do you want to work here? Does working in Hollywood, is that some kind of something that's on your radar, something you'd like to do? Would you like to expand your professional output to include more of the world, particularly Hollywood? And I think, Conrad, I think that's more directed at you.
Right. Absolutely. I'm actually planning to be there by hopefully 2019, if I can. I was there and living there for a bit, and kind of getting my way back there, I guess you could say. But very much so. It's definitely where I want to be for both acting and photography also. It's kind of the mecca of that, and I love LA. I love California, and I've really enjoyed living there when I was there. So,
where did you live? Where in Los Angeles were you?
Just near Fairfax Avenue, where they have the awesome markets. I lived in a
farmers market. Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Why do you all think that A Place to Call Home has captured the imagination of people in 144 countries?
Because we share more similarities than differences as people. You know, I hate it when there's a natural disaster in this country and everyone goes, oh, we all pull together, you know, it's the Aussie spirit. No, it's the human spirit. You know, it's got nothing to do with being Australian. It's got to do with being a fellow human being in distress. And you know, these stories are human stories. They're deeply, deeply felt human emotions that I think anyone from any religion or country clearly can relate to. I mean, it's just extraordinary to see the comments, you know, from countries I've never heard of sometimes, saying I absolutely love the show and talking about the themes and the characters. You know, that is very fulfilling, I think, for us as actors to know that we are telling a story that resonates, because that's all you have, as Jane was saying before, you know, that the arts are about connecting and about getting people to think about their attitudes and reflecting on themselves and their way of life. And we all need to do that. You know, nobody's perfect. There's no such thing. So anything that, from any angle that allows you to reflect on who you are and how you are in the world, even through a vicarious medium like television, is valuable.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons too is that it's got that mass appeal is that it's a good platform in that, I mean, the other shows that are out there, you have, you know, people terrorists or people on cop dramas or people in a medical scenario, and it's a great platform in terms of it's got a real open scope to deal with many issues, and also because it's set in the 50s in a time when that was ripe for people discovering another way to run society that's, you know, and dealing with a lot of the issues that people really enjoy that come up in the show and people have got always questions about and how we, you know, interpret those. And yeah, so it's a really good, stepping point, I think, for a lot of appeal to people in all sorts of places.
Yeah,
in that way. It's a connector, yeah.
Robert wants to say something.
No, I was just pushing it around to Conrad so you could see Conrad while he spoke.
Conrad, what would you like to see happen to your character in season 6?
I'd love to see, I think, well, the setup of my character is that
No spoilers.
Yeah, I can talk about anything I've done on the show already?
Up to now, but no, maybe not.
Right, well,
we've all seen season 5. We've seen season 5.
Yes.
And there will be a spoiler for anybody when we post the chat. There'll be a spoiler if anybody hasn't seen it. So share.
Yeah, I think the way my character is set up, that you know, the rift that was with my father before he died, and the backstory of my character is that, you know, he wanted me to take on the family business, and I basically wanted to do my own thing and be a bit of a beach bum. And I think what we've seen in the series 5 is we've seen him be he's been introduced in quite a structured way, which is interesting. And I'd love to see in season 6 really see that carefree lover of nature and being a surfer and a bit more of the relaxed side of him. I'd love to see those qualities, and I think we'll get to hopefully see that with the way he deals with Georgie and being a surrogate parent, and also why he really likes that side of the relationship, that there is a young person involved that you know, he gets to enjoy. So yeah, I'd like to see where they go with that, and I think that'll be one of the main points that they go through.
I want to see you surfing.
Yeah.
That was my next question. Do you really surf?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. We'll be looking for pictures of that.
Yeah, I can't quite hang 10. I should probably start getting a Malibu because that's what they all surfed back then. But,
Exactly. Well, I want to thank all of you. This has been so terrific. I hope that we can do this again. You should know that we're all Googling and finding out, and I'm looking at all the work that you've done before, which is really exciting because we get the same stuff here all the time, and even with HBO, and there's always one series that people is quality and people latch onto, but you have opened up a whole new world to us. We're now seeing movies and material and shows and your gorgeous country, and that's something that we've never seen before. So I want to thank you on behalf of everybody for taking the time to talk to us. I hope we can do this again. Robert, something tells me that you're not going to be standing in the unemployment line. You'll be on our screens in a matter of minutes. Conrad, we're looking forward to getting to know you and looking forward to your work, and I know exciting things are in your future. And Noni, I hope you feel all the love when you come onto the page. Nobody receives as many comments and as many likes and as many loves as you do. People are constantly posting clips of things that you've done.
Oh, no.
And I must say, Noni, that now that we've gotten to know each other, I'm not even looking so much for your acting work anymore. I like those fiery speeches that you make about equality and love and people sticking together. That's what I want. And we need to see more of that. So again, thank you so much. Conrad, we're going to be looking at your pictures. Robert, I'm going to be looking for your art. Conrad, we look forward to getting to know you better. Love to all of you on behalf of 144 countries. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Lovely.
And
Thank you.
best wishes for the new year for everybody.
Yeah.
And the UK fans, I look
Happy and
forward.
safe one.
Yeah, happy and safe and peaceful. And I look forward to your responses in the UK and all the other countries that haven't yet seen season 5. I hope the spoilers haven't spoiled it for you, but I think you'll find it a very stimulating season.
It's a gorgeous, gorgeous season from the beginning to the end, and everybody rose up. The previous season was a wonderful season, but everybody, from the costumes to everything and the acting, every single actor in your ensemble delivered outstanding work this season. And hats off to all of you. Thank you so much.
Battling on through a bad cold.
Yeah.
Noni, are you gonna make them lunch now?
Oh, I might.
No.
See how we go.
We've been here long enough.
All right,
mate,
take care. Be well.
will you.
Bye.
Happy 2018.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
That's the tragedy of anything
Bye.
else. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, well, that was